Alright, hello guys and welcome back to the Microsoft Word course on Learn.io. Today we're going to be talking about the Layout tab here in Word. So let's have a look. There's a lot of things you can do here. And let's just start from the left. So the first thing you'll see is margins. And what margins are basically are the distance between the edge of the paper and the edge of where the writing starts. If you notice this thing right here, this is an easy way to change the margins. If that doesn't show up on your Word, we'll show you how to open that or make this visible in the next episode. But for now, margins, here if you click on margins, you probably can't see, but it gives you a bunch of options: narrow, moderate, wide, and these basically increase or decrease the distance between the edge of the paper and the edge of the text. So if I did wide margins, you see now the distance is larger. If I change it back to normal, you see the difference. Orientation is pretty simple. It changes from portrait to landscape. So imagine a piece of paper. Are you holding it lengthwise or are you holding it widthwise? That's basically what that changes. I prefer this lengthwise for a book. Then we have the size. Now this changes the size of the paper you're working on. In the US, the default size is letter, since that is, the regular standard paper size that we work with here in the States. I know in Europe, the standard size that a lot of countries work with is A4 paper. So if you're sending documents abroad, if you're working with people in different countries, it might be a good idea to ask them, hey, what size paper do you use? So that whenever you create your documents, all of the formatting kind of carries over to whatever they end up printing. But other than that, they also have envelope size, they have legal paper, executive paper, A5, A6. All of those are options, and you can basically change the size of your paper. Then you also have breaks. That's, again, like section breaks or page breaks. The easier way to do that, Control Enter. But then you see in our next section, we have, actually before we do that, do you also have line numbers? You can number your lines. Like if you ever take a standardized test, they often have like your every fifth line is numbered. You can use the line numbers here to do that. But yeah, so then in the next section, paragraph section, we have indents and spacing. So indent is relatively similar to the indents we were talking about earlier. You just pick your paragraph. Indents the whole paragraph. But this also, the right indent doesn't reduce the indent. It creates an indent from the right. So you see every time I'm increasing this, the distance from the right is increasing. So let's get rid of all of that. Boop, 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 boop. And that's what that does. It increases the distance from the right, not decrease the distance from the left. So that's one way to create a right side indent in Word. The other thing that's here is spacing. And so this isn't spacing between lines. This is spacing between paragraphs. So right here, you can tell when you click Enter, there's a bigger space. That's a paragraph. So now if I add space before the paragraph, you'll see it starts to move down. So it's increasing the space between the two paragraphs. Or if I go to this paragraph before it and I increase the space after the paragraph, it does the same thing. I can also decrease the space after the paragraph to make it look more like it was just part of the same paragraph. So that's another thing you can kind of edit a bit. With all of that said, the last section here kind of works a little more with images and other elements. So I'll paste in an image I had copied from earlier. You may recognize this from the earlier video that we did on inserting elements. So let's say I wanted to move this image. I kind of wanted it in the middle of the paragraph here. Cool, I'll just move it here. It looks kind of strange though, because it's in the middle of the text. It's weird. If I wanted to keep it kind of in the middle of the page with text going around it, but I didn't want the text on the same line looking all sorts of strange, click on the image. And right here it says wrap text. What this does is it creates text above it and one line of text that's on the same line as the image, and then the text continues beneath it. I could change this to be square, so all the text is on either side of the image. It was this document and it existed. It just goes on either side. You also have tight and through, which are relatively similar. They just kind of change the distance between the image and the text. And then you have, can I find it? Top and bottom is the last feature. And that basically separates all of the text to either be above the image or below the image. You cannot place any text on the same line as the image. So if you can see what this is doing, that's what that is. Personally, I find inline with text is just pretty effective. Typically, you won't want to keep your image on the same line as the text, so you can just drag it beneath the text, and there you go. New line, keep typing away, done, no problems. But if you ever find yourself in a situation where you have a lot of images and text that you kind of got to move around, that's one way to do it. I think I may have forgotten to mention the columns feature here earlier. Can't remember if I did or didn't, but just in case I forgot, columns basically increases the number of columns you have to work with. You can make it 2, you can make it left, you can make it 3, however you want. Just think of like a newspaper where they have multiple columns of text. That's what that does. But yeah, that's most of the main features on the Layout tab. I hope you learned something. We'll see you next time.